Hi, welcome to Ocean Yemi's channel. So today I'm going to talk about the the Magdalene Laundries, which is homes for young women who had children out of wedlock. Some was abused, some was fell pregnant. Even if they took an apple, they were hungry. There was some kind of issue against that. Um, the children that was born, they found a whole mass grave where all the children was buried, and the survivors came out and spoke about it. Some of the mothers had biracial children as well, and some just had children out of wedlock, basically. So these homes, or they call them mansions, some of them was in some parts of London, some in Ireland, Canada, and other parts. But the main ones that is mentioned is the one in Ireland and the one in some part of London. Now, these young girls was between the age of 10, 12 upwards, and they used to do the laundry for the people and that. And the nuns was very abusive. Like the nuns, which is Catholic run mostly, and the Catholic Church have a a issue with abuses already. Now, some of the nuns was very brutal in how they dealt with the girls. They made them suffer in so many ways. It's unreal. And even, I think, the survivors got got some type of compensation, some type of something, but at a long a lot they had to deal with legal things and getting help, because like they was like the scurv of society, basically the lower echelon of the society. They was not looked on as human. And funny enough, hi Chrissy, some of the homes closed down in 2017 or something like that. So they was running for a very long time. The Magdalena, was literally bulldozed down. But one of the ladies who campaigned, she did a whole model of it. And if you look at some of the videos, you'll see a whole heap of videos pop up. When you start watching like one, there's like a whole heap of them pop up, literally. And I looked up the sisters who was looking after the girls. I'm going to pull up the sisters. The Sisters of Mercy was one of the nuns, one set of nuns that looked after the girls. Right, the Sisters of Mercy. There was quite a few of them actually. Okay, that's all right because it's late as well. The Sisters of Mercy. Let me bring myself back. The Sisters of Mercy, sacred. Let me see if I can find it. The Sisters of Mercy, the Sisters of Our Lady of Charity, the Sisters of Charity, the Good Shepherd Sisters. They was the ones who operated the Magdalene Laundries. Let me talk about this one. Right, they was the ones. But on this article here, the Sisters of Mercy to compensate child abuse victims. The Irish Order of the Roman Catholic Nuns offers like 1117 million after inquiry undercovers academic of the R word and cruelty in its institutions. A major Irish, not gonna read all of it because there's a lot to read. If anything, I'll put it in the community tab. A major Irish order of the Roman Catholic nuns, the Sisters of Mercy, today offered to pay child abuse victims. The government and charities further €128 million to compensate for decades of abuse in its schools and orphanages. The compensation offered to the Irish Education Department is by far the largest of 18 orders of Catholic priests, brothers, and nuns found guilty of chronic child abuse. They ran scores of residential schools, workhouses, orphanages for generations of Ireland-deprived children from the 19th century to the 1990s. The Sisters of Mercy said it wholeheartedly regrets the suffering experienced by the children in their care and hoped their latest offer will show that its nuns was being faithful to the values of reparations and healing and responsibility. A 9-year state investigation in the May ruled that all orders permitted and covered up the academic of the R word, molestation, beatings, mental cruelty in their children's institution. The government responded by demanding that the orders pay much more to help cover the compensation payments to more than 14,000 abuse claimants worldwide, topping €1 billion. Several other Catholic orders have made smaller offers to the government and victim support groups of the report. In the findings of epic levels of cruelty and neglect found public fury against the Catholic orders, which in 2001 cut a deal with the government that capped the church's total money in it. The future of compensation bill at $127.5 million, virtually the same as the compensation now offered by the Sisters of Mercy alone. The Sisters of Mercy said its new offer would include $20 million in cash to fund for supporting victims and their families, and donations of properties worth €110 million. So I'm not being rude. The sun today has not. That's okay because I know how I'm the same, right? So basically, there was compensation for all the places where all abuses happened, i.e., like I said, on the dark side. There's one where I did on the reform school. This was supposed to straighten the girls out and make them worthy of being a woman and all that stuff. But in fact, what it did actually, it turned them into victims of circumstances because some of them didn't know they was going to the place where they put them, and especially because like they was doing labours where they were cleaning laundries and doing all stuff. One of the victims ideally talk about when one of the Catholic priests did actually abused her, you know what I'm saying? So there is a long history of it. Now, the let me see, the Salvation Army also apologized about the baby and mother's home, because that's what they were called, baby and mother's homes, right? So there was apology. Hold on. So this is about the same Magdalena, but they call it the mother and baby home. So the services run by trained staff and midwives were designed to give mothers a safe place to give birth, and resident mothers would have helped towards the running of the home and contributing to cooking and cleaning. Salvation Army orders, regulations, government, the running of the mother and baby homes, first published in the 1920s, updated in the 1962, The orders and regulations stated the ruling principle of the Salvation Army is that the mother and child should be encouraged to keep together unless there are extreme circumstances which could clearly render inadvisable. However, while adoptions may not have been the norm, we now understand that some mothers feel adoptions was arranged against their wishes. Thanks to the bravery of those who have chosen to speak about their experiences, we also know that not everyone in our care received the support needed, so they give an apology. The Salvation Army's leader in the UK and Ireland, Tutorial Commander Commissioner Anthony Cotterell said, "We are deeply saddened to hear of the traumatic experiences that some people endured in the care of the Salvation Army many decades ago. We are extremely grateful to those who have shared their testimonies about the experiences. Entering a mothering and baby home was often the only option of many unmarried mothers. Many organizations, including the Salvation Army, ran mother and baby homes with the intention of supporting and protecting vulnerable women and children from distinction. Yeah. However, we acknowledge that there are some who found their experiences in these homes extremely dramatic, and they did not always receive the support they needed and deserve, for which we are deeply sorry. It is right to expect the Salvation Army to be open and transparent, and for us to reflect on time in our history when it is clear that some individuals in our care was let down. We will continue to work with the researchers and government agencies to share our records to ensure those who suffer have voices." So that's the Salvation Army possibly had a home as well. Hi, Alex. So they possibly had a home as well. Anyway, as I looked further, I think there's something else I'm supposed to find. Hold on. You see, I could find it. Now, there is Sinead O'Connor was also brought up in one of these homes, but I'm not going to go to her yet. Okay? I'm not going to go to her yet. As I'm trying to take off something off the screen, they won't go. Too much things popping up now. Okay, let's go to Sinead O'Connor then. Oh, now it pops up. Okay, so there is another one that I looked up also before we get to the survivors themselves, because the survivors talk about their experiences on all the videos. I haven't put up all of them on the thing. I put up the documentary where they called them the legitimate children. That's what they called them. And one of the children that survived, because he was lucky to get fostered or adopted. He spoke of when he went to the place because it's derelict, and he was explaining and he was saying that how, like, if the young girl didn't wash or something, they will get beaten, and then they wouldn't be, they'd be treated very severely. Anyways, there is another article also that covers also what happened in these home type places. So there's something jumping up in front. Oh. They keep jumping stuff up in front of the screen. So let's see. Right. So women were beaten. horror story on it. Miranda Campbell told the BBC, she got a thick string. She tied it around my neck for 3 days, 3 nights. I had to eat off the floor every morning. Then I had to get down on my knees and I had to say, I beg Almighty God pardon, Our Lady pardon, my champion pardon, my companions pardon. For this is another lady. Dear, and I remember the lice. So if you were one of the last to get washed, it was horrific. So that's some of the survivors. So when Peter Moore, a diabolical truth, the Roman Catholic reality advertising as a charitable safe house where fallen women could find it along with employment as laundry. These laws they operate I don't know what I got to, but anyways, I'm gonna go back to the page. So they were operating for 231 years and only closed in 1996. Right. The solitude history of laundries is an extraordinary one, and the first Irish institution found by philanthropist Lady Abella Denny, opened in 1765, known as the Magdalene Asylums, after renamed the biblical prostitute Mary Magdalene. The homes profited to be the sanctuaries for the women, unwed mothers, girls who had been passed up by their families, and your run-of-the-mill free-thinking feminists who were too eccentric for some to fit into the strictness of the communities. Incredibly, the laundry operate in various stages of at least and cruelty at worst. Until 1996, it's been estimated that over 300,000 women pass through the asylums. Some stay in a month, some remaining for a lifetime. Even that seems to be conservative figure. Though you consider that when you consider that the time period this is about the girls who was in the Magdalene Laundries. They're like homes for girls who was abused, wed, well, everything's going on. Legitimate children. These are the girls that I put up on the community tab. So I'm just going to go in a little deeper. So recently, so when I looked up, there was about the mass graves. The mass graves that was on the grounds, which is what my grandmother always spoke about, priests making babies with nuns, etc., etc. Now, when I saw that how they had graves of small babies who either had broken arms, forces, blood traumas, all sorts of stuff, and they were buried in mass graves on the grounds of the home. So some of the people who was there, when they give their explanation on how they had to sign away their children that they had like a day before or whatever, and somebody spoke about little boxes that was put out in the graves, and they were put like a a nail to simplify the child that was buried. So when the grave, little school children. So then I have to put I'm gonna have to put myself in front because it keeps going in and out. Can I do it? Oh, there we go. Yeah, because it keeps coming out. So when they excavated the grounds, they found loads of children, little babies, little small babies, little infants, buried in mass graves. Now, some of these women literally had to go and get some kind of something because they all went through something very dramatic. And also, let me stop that one actually, because there's another thing I was supposed to say that I saw too while searching these laundries, well, asylums as they call them. And they're quite bleak places. Even from the building, you can see that they're quite bleak looking places anyway. Like this is one of them, because there was one in Canada, as I said, and one in Ireland. There's a couple of them. They're quite bleak places. They have the wire over the wall. They said it looked like a little bit of a prison. That's how they describe it. But when you look at this picture, you can see it looks like a prison. So really, instead of helping the women, because the nuns wasn't getting paid any money anyway. So if you have watched the video, you would know that the nuns was not getting paid anyway. So basically, they was just being cruel to the girls. and calling it that they're saving their souls, basically. But in fact, they weren't saving their souls. They're literally just being cruel. And because of the circumstances to which the girls has come into, you know, they weren't seen as anything. They're seen as rubbish, basically. So some of the girls passed away as well. Some of the mothers passed away inside of this institution, and they said that the place was in the middle of nowhere, so it's rural area, just like with the boys' reform school. Yes, like old workhouses. Yes, like old workhouses. All workhouses look like prisons, and the girls was kept locked in. Yes, that's how it was. So basically, because they got some kind of compensation and stuff. So what happens is, right, their stories started coming out. The one particular survivor, I think that's the lady who spoke about how they dealt with her in a cruel way. She started writing down names and stuff like that to keep record of all of her friends who passed away. When she went to one of the graves, when you look in the video, you see that she goes to a headstone and she points directly to her friend that was with her in the place. Some of the women did escape. Some of the girls, shall I say, because they're girls, they're like teenagers, did escape. See, my daughter's not well. Did escape the asylum or the home, but they call it baby and mother's home. So it looked really bleak, right? And because I did on the boys' reform school, because I know there's some reform schools that was over here, as well as other stuff that used to go on over here. But what they did recently on BBC iPlayer, they put up a what you call it, a like a 3-part series of The Woman in the Wall. And what it is a cross between a thriller but a real life thing, basically. So when the when the when the character's talking about certain stuff, you see her have flashbacks of certain stuff. You see her have flashbacks of the nuns taking the babies from the girls after they had the baby. You'll see a flashback of they don't show the cruelty, but they show that when they praised one girl, the girl will probably inform on the other girls, etc. I worked with an elderly lady many years ago. She was put in a workhouse for getting pregnant outside of marriage. She spent all her adult life in the workhouse till they closed them down in the 80s. Yeah, that's what I read recently. There's one in also that documentary that I put up. I can't remember the name. Let me see if I can remember the name. So you can go and refer to it. In that documentary, in that documentary particularly, let me see if I can find it. Like island children of shame, they call them island children of shame. But somebody on the comment section said, no, you shouldn't call them legitimate, because they kept calling them legitimate. They said, no, you shouldn't call them legitimate. So I also looked up where all of these baby homes was. Okay, so let me see. Let's go to the other screen. The other screen will show where there was in London. Where there was in London. These places. So there was a lot of them. So these are all of the names of the homes. Paddington, Marrowbone, where else? Finchley, St John's Woods, Stoke Newton, Willesden. There's a lot of them. I'm sure there's more. So what they will call them before and after care home. The Helenas won girls who, through though once fallen, are now in service and require a holiday. Other fives and mothers and infants, ones first fall only, no infectious cases. Right, let me read the top. So the establishments listed below are believed to have provided at least some accommodation for unmarried mothers and their babies during at least some of their existence. They included maternity homes before and after, confinement care homes, hostels for pregnant working girls or working mothers, Irish county homes, homes that in their day was labelled the Magdalene homes, are listed elsewhere. Places, common accommodation provided for mothers, babies. Note that over the years, many institutions change location names, sometimes more than once. So accommodation provided, the age of those admitted at home could also vary. So some of them are quite local, put it that way. So that's what Christine was saying, that how the lady said that she worked in a workhouse. They tend to be put in isolated areas surrounded by huge grounds. Those on the outside wouldn't even know these places existed. Yep, exactly that. So, where's the list gone? I lost my list. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so the list, Camden had it. Like I said, Cricklewood, East Finchley, North London, Hampstead, Highbury, Highgate. They had two in Highgate, Holloway, Hornsey, Kilburn. There's a lot. Oh, it won't let me go to the other one. It won't let me go to the other screen. So those are the list that was in the London area. Now, not only did they have these girls, they also had a whole ledger. Yeah, right around London, exactly. But the one in Ireland got highlighted more because I think one of the girls escaped. No, I think she'd escaped, or when she got older, she went looking for her son, or I can't remember the story exactly word for word. But then they started highlighting the one in Ireland more, which is the Magdalene Laundry. That's the one I put up on the wall. But as you can see, there were lots of them. The nuns was also doing ledgers as well. They was doing ledgers on the girls. Let me see if I could find a ledger. A clear one, because they might not have a clear one. See, even this, there's a picture here, hold on. Even the entrance to it looked daunting. Look at the entrance. Look at that. That's what they saw when they got driven in. Because you can see, there's a car lane. It's like you can't just walk in there. So yeah, it was usually poor and working classes that would be put in them from those places. And workhouses. Remember a long time ago, right? They would talk about workhouses where they had to. It was a bit like the Oliver Twist thing, innit? The workhouses, the chimney boys, all that sort of things. So there was a lot of cruelty, a lot of child cruelty. Back in those days, pregnancy outside of marriage was more or less viewed as a crime. Yes, which is what they said. Yep, yep, yeah. It was a crime. It was a crime for sure. Can't find the page right here. I'm looking for the ledger that the nuns wrote. Here's the one of the ledgers. There's a ledger that they wrote. They kept record of everything. This is one of the ledger. I don't even know if I can read it. And they was talking about how much I think is how much each girl maybe £1.21. I can't read the writing. It's very hard to read the writing. I'm gonna blow it up anyway, so you can get a bigger picture. Trying to see if I can make out what they were writing, but they said they kept ledgers on the selling of children as well. They kept ledgers of that. So this must be a ledger of a selling of children, cheap from £1, £1.10, £2.70. Let me see if I can. Let's see if we can get more information on the ledgers. So a ledger listing the girls and women at the Magdalene Laundry in Dublin. So this is one from Dublin. Oh, and also talk about the abuse. So this is one lady who was R word. The tragic life of Mary Smith. Mary Smith was sent to Magdalene Laundry in Cork after she was R word. The nuns explained to Smith that she had to be locked away in case she got pregnant. At the laundry, the nuns cut Smith's hair and gave her a new name. Oh, yeah, okay. Like the other inmates, Smith had to work in the laundry and follow a vow of silence. The nun also beat her. The horrific conditions further traumatized Smith, who only around 16 years old when she was locked away. She later said the nun made the girls feel like they weren't human. Okay, this is the one where they didn't feel like where they won't feel like there was this unnamed person. We were worse than animals, she said. She said we were used to have to line up. We used to have to line up, and they used to make us hold our hands, and the nuns used to say to us, "Say after me, I am nobody, I am nobody." They used to keep telling us to say this, "I am nobody." Years later, Smith could not even remember how long she spent at the asylum. Smith later learnt that she'd been born at a different Magdalene Laundry to her unwedded mother, sent to the asylum by her priest. Tragically, Smith's mother died before they could be reunited. So the survivors spoke out. Elizabeth Coupin grew up in the Magdalena Laundry system when Coppin was 2 years old. Her stepfather beat her, so the government removed Coppin from her home and sent her to the asylum. Per court order, she was to be a warder court until she reached the age of 16. Instead, she was confined in the laundry system till she was 19. While there, the nuns starved her, beat her until she was wilted, locked her in cupboards, forced her to wear soiled clothes on her head. If she wet herself at the age of 12 or 13, Cobham set her clothes on fire in unaliving attempt. When she survived, she was not given any medical treatment. It dawned on me that I would be there for life, that I'd be buried in the mass grave. There were whispers that went around, she said. She told the New York Times, I saw the people who were there, who were broken, institutionalized, legit, illegit, illegit, what? Illegit from the living in the dark, dark place with no way out. I remember asking myself, illiterate, when I don't see a word, I've seen that word before. I remember asking myself the questions, what will I do? How will I get out? When she was 17, Coppin managed to escape the laundry, and 3 months later, child protection workers forced her to return. Well, it's different people telling their story. So these are the women they're talking about. These are the women they're talking about. Okay. Back in those days. Oh, yeah. Parents handed their daughters over to these places rather than face the shame of neighbors and family and friends. Yes, yes, and yes. And they're usually poor too. Like, So these women went through a heck of a lot. And on top of that, the pictures they put out seem like they did good marketing in a kind of a way. The pictures they put out was always the girls smiling or looking into the camera. Oh, I don't like that one. See if I can get a better one. Like in every picture, you see the girls looking into the camera, looking like they're doing something. Like, So so people thought that these nuns was very legit, when in fact they're not. There was quite cruel women. This thing keeps popping up. I'm trying to find another picture. I had to wait for this silly thing to move out the way. Is it gonna move out the way? Okay, see? They always show them looking into or sometimes they will show them smiling, standing up while holding the laundry. And one lady, I think in the woman in the wall, I think that is from a survivor, when she talks about when the nun would cut her fingers so low it was bleeding. It would bleed on over the laundry. So I think that's a real one. I think that's a real story there. Yeah, Mother Teresa. Yes, I think Mother Teresa used to, or part of it. You never know. You never know, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show these stage pictures, because that's what I really want to show you, the pictures. And I had the ledgers of the children that they sold. So there's this one, this one, this one is seen on most articles as well, where they're doing the laundry. See, where they're doing the laundry, these very young girls. They're not big girls. They're very, very young. And I think that's their lawyer that they're there with. Oh yeah, there's this one. See, they always show them in a certain position. And it does look staged. It does look staged for real. But this is so that they can get funding and donations from the people probably around in the area. He was just thinking that they was doing good for the girls who had come there, when in fact it was not so. So there's one also where you see the lady standing at a graveyard. I think it's in the way now. There's one where they're standing at the graveyard. And it just happened to be some of the girls. I won't be able to show it because the thing keeps popping up. The advert keeps popping up. Right, so this is the picture and also part of the article. Where's this one? Okay, so they're saying it's a homicide. Ooh, it's a homicide business. Yeah, neglect and homicide. So that means that the cruelty was so severe, the nuns took it to the next level. The nuns took it to the next level for as well. They did put on their best clothes for that. Yes, they did. They did. I won't move out the way the thing. Okay. Thousands of women unalive because of neglect and homicide. Many of the deaths that occurred at the Irish Laundry, which mostly came about through medical negligence, were not reported, according to the sources citing 2013's groundbreaking Magdalene report. Though the asylums officially recorded 879 deaths, a group called Justice for the Magdalenes interviewed survivors and collected testimonies about the death and the burials, the gravestones, the electoral registers, the exemption, the order to check to check the area. I said it before and I can't remember the word. And the newspaper archives, eventually from all of this research, they determined the number of unreported deaths to be close to 1,663 million. Though this figure remains both controversial and denied by the powers that be, because the power that be was part of this. Where's it gone now? It keeps playing, it keeps going off. Anyways, I'm not going to stay on here long because I actually can see my screen's going in and out, in and out, in and out. It's not even behaving right now, right? But there is a whole heap behind this, and they did apologize to the women. But apologizing doesn't return your life back to where it was. You can't relive your life again. You can't relive your life again. Now, these ladies may have got compensation, but they lost their children in the process. And being locked in a place that's like a prison wasn't they weren't really helping the girls. If anything, they were going through a whole heap of cruelty, devastation. I don't know, but the fact that how right they found so many bodies. No, they haven't found the bodies on the mass grave, especially the baby one. Let's see if I can find the baby's graves. The baby's graves. The mass grave. Hold on, let me show it. There's a whole mass grave. And so it was under Mary Magdalene's statue. You see it in all the pictures. Oops. Yeah, apology doesn't bring back no baby life. Exactly. It doesn't bring it back. I wonder how many of those nuns were imprisoned. I wonder too. They put on their best clothes. Oh, yeah, that's for the thing. Yeah, so this is the mass grave with the green where the babies was. It did not have nothing official. They said that when the children was playing, the children in the area, when they will fall into that area, they will find a skull with a wood in pierced into the skull. I think they did do a forensic on the babies, and they found that the arm was broken. Something was wrong with them. Something was wrong with the remains, right? So they did a plaque to the women who worked to the Magdalene Laundry institutions and to the children born to some members of the community. Reflect how upon can't see what the next word is. Can't see what it says. Oh yeah, this is one of the graves I was talking about with all the names of the women. So these must be their grandchildren. See, they put a statue of Magdalene on the site. You know, so it's a sad story because even though they put it in a TV program, but when you really look at it, it's quite a sad story. It's a sad story, and there's one lady she was talking about being there. I don't even know if I can play it because YouTube's such a sensitive place. Try and make her bigger. Right. There is a lady that did an interview as well on the thing. See, I could find it because I love playing the sound rights to these things. See, I could find one that I had earlier. So they called it Island Secret. So I'm so quiet. Hold on. Right. So I'm gonna see if I can find one of the interviews. to make it more realer, because they're real people. Oh yeah.
Around and show them that this is what it was like. I'm just one of those lucky children to have survived that.
Tuam, a tranquil town in Western Ireland. Tuam, a name that has traumatized the whole country, all pregnant unmarried women. Like Bridie, John's mother, who experienced all manner of institutions. A juvenile detention centre, the Tuam mother and baby home, and after a baby was taken, reclusion once more. For 15 years, she was incarcerated in a Magdalene Laundry, from which she escaped at the age of 34. A lifetime of servitude and grieving, of endless thoughts for her son John, to whom she wrote every month in vain.
And it's painful to admit it, but I was running away from her, because I was ashamed of her. It was a terrible stigma. It was a horrendous thing. It was horrendous going to school because I was always called a bastard child. I was told so many times that nobody wanted me.
The bastard child John sees himself as a survivor. He did not die in the Tuam home. He stayed there until he was 5.5, much longer than the average inmate.
And of course, the big high walls, the walls, like the prison type walls, that was completely surrounding the ground. The hundreds of children that was there, it seemed like to me like there was a couple of hundred children there, all different ages. And those toilets, those open air toilets over against the big high wall, I mean, they were just literally opened, a line of toilet bowls. So that's my memory of Joe.
Above all, John remembers the children who disappeared from the home in Tuam, after a few weeks or months, only rarely after several years, adopted like himself into a foster family.
It was a supermarket where people from all over the country, particularly County Galway, all around Tuam, they went in and they picked out a child, and the nuns brought them on a tour of the grounds, and 2 or 3 children might have been chosen and said, well, which of those are we going to go for? I think maybe we'll go for the little fella there. He's 5 or 6. No, I think I'd like somebody a bit older or a bit younger.
Dear Mr. and Mrs. Brennan, we had a very nice letter from your priest, and we are pleased that you persevered in your application. So I think we will be able to give you a baby. Kindly let me know by return post, if possible, what age baby you would be interested in. At the moment, we have 2 lovely boys. Don't delay in writing, as we have a very great demand for children at the moment. God and Mary be with you.
It was no doubt with a letter of this kind that John's fate was sealed, handed over to a new family by the Bonsecourt sisters. The O'Briens provided a home in exchange for a modest state allowance. The system was somewhat less benevolent with regard to the mothers who were forced to abandon their children.
My mother was forced to stay for 1 year and a month, yes. And then when she left that particular morning, she had nothing with her. She had nothing that she could bring. There was no point in bringing a little jumper or a little glove or a little sock or a shoe or anything like that. So what she did was she cut off a lock of my hair as keepsake. And to her, that was a symbol that she'd never be parted from her son. And she vowed that she'd keep that, and she did it. And she kept it for 30 odd years until we were reunited. And then she handed it back to me in this house. Lock of hair, 1948. It's hard to believe it has survived all this time.
Now he was lucky to find his mother, because not a lot of children found their mum. Not a lot of women found their children, and that's one of the there is where you see them when they're older now, even older. Oh yes, back to Sinead O'Connor. I ain't forgot about her. Sinead O'Connor also spoke out against these nuns. Now, remember when she put on that whole protest live on screen, right? And she was possibly in the institution. She was either born in one or she was brought up in one. I can't remember exactly. So Sinead O'Connor gave us strength, says Magdalene Laundries survivor, a woman who suffered abuse in one of the same institution as Sinead O'Connor, and the singer made Ireland a different place. A woman who suffered abuse in one of the same institutions as Sinead O'Connor said the singer made Ireland a different place by speaking out on the church-state exploitation. O'Connor spoke openly about the abuse she faced in Magdalene Laundries as a teenager, where she spent more than a year. A guard of honor was made for her that for the late singer by survivors as her funeral procession passed by her former Irish home. Magdalene Laundries was an institution established by the Catholic Church in Ireland to house fallen women. So they are going to repeat over again what it was. They're going to repeat it. So Maureen Sutherland, who came to see the funeral procession of O'Connor pass through Bry, Wicklow, and said she was one of the thousands of women incarcerated in the secretive institutions. She said she was put into the laundry at age 12 after being abused by a family member. I am a survivor of the Magdalene Laundry, and I done 4 years in these places, trafficked from one to the other, she said. My name changed, my education was taken from me, and I wasn't allowed to play with other children in case I told them what to do, what happened to me. In 2022, a journey stone was unveiled by the survivors of the Magdalene Laundry at St. Stephenson Green in Dublin. The Journey Stone Memorial was designed to commemorate the suffering of the women who was incarcerated in the Magdalene Laundry and similar institutions. Mrs. Sutherland said O'Connor was to bring the memorial to fruition. She said Sinead came along and she done a charity single for us so we could get a monument. So the monument was just thrown on the side. So I decided that I turn it into Journey Stone, and it is the little museum in St. Stephen's Green. Sinead's name never comes up much on that, but only for Sinead that Journey Stone wouldn't be there today. It was for the survivors. She was very happy about that. It gave us all courage, and it gave us strength. And she gave strength to so many women. So they're basically talking about her funeral. But yeah, she was one. Sinead was in there too herself. She was in one of the homes as well. I remember a story, I believe, Scotland, where dead bodies of children was found buried under the house. Yeah, I think I know what that one is. I think I know which one you're talking about. But it is so much, you see, because the documentary talks about what had happened. It does talk about the survivors, but there is so much more going on. Let me see if I could find that other one what I found earlier. Is this one it? Oh yeah, plus I found the other spaces. The one in Canada. This is the laundry in Canada. I think it's Canada. Can't remember what one it was. There was one in Canada as well. And they're all kind of... Let me see if I could... So, what about the lost children and the mothers of America? In The Lost Children of Trem, the New York Times tells the tragic story of the mother and baby homes in Ireland. Oh, see, it's gone back to Ireland again. But there was one in America. The Magdalene Laundries existed in the US nearly as long as they did in Ireland. There was at least as numerous in this country, just as brutal. Worldwide attention on the Magdalene Laundries, mother and baby homes in Ireland. See, they keep referring to the one in Ireland, but there was some in the US. So the news of the scandals has encouraged survivors of the US Magdalene Laundries to speak out about their experience. Yet thus far, their testimony has neither been acknowledged nor validated by the journalists or historians, much less religious or political leaders. So the difference between the one in Ireland and the one in the Americas, the one in Ireland, they're getting the stories out, they're getting the testimonies out, and in the one in America, that is not happening. So there's probably women who's in America who has been in these homes, and they're not saying nothing, or they can't get their story out. So, and even though it's linked to the island, the one in Ireland or part of it, their story is not come out, which is sad. Yeah, I'll do a part two. I would even do an upload to make it easier for myself, because then I can just explain and then do more. Yeah, I will definitely do a part two. So, with that said, I am going to come off to myself because, it's a lot. So this is so far what I researched so far of this Magdalene Laundry. There's so much more. I don't even think I can cover half of it, especially now. That means I got to go look at the American one now, because they keep highlighting the Irish one. So part two, if you remind me, if I haven't been distracted somewhere else, will come, because this could be repeated in present times, and that's what people forget, because history always repeats itself. So these type of places might pop up again, because people, like, the cost of living's going up. For one, the cost of living's going up. Some people can't take care of their children and all that stuff. So these type of places might pop up, but in a different kind of way. They might even bring back workhouses. You never know. Okay, so it's always good to know what was in the past. So if it comes in the future, you know exactly what it is. Because there is, I don't think that there is teenage mums, but they don't get treated as severe as this. So the fact that this story is so potent in how it is put out, it does put out in so much different parts. There's so much elements to it, because even the sisters, the nuns, if I was to go look into the nuns themselves, I'll probably find a whole heap of stuff. That means I would have to section them. The cruelty, the home itself, the cruelty they did, even though they go into it briefly, but I know there's more to it. Right, the ledger is the most important one, because they sold the children as well with them ledgers, which is illegal sale of children. Some of the nuns might have lived for a long time, and they might have gone to them and spoken to them. There was always abuse in the Catholic churches anyway. Wherever there's reformed homes, reform institutions, and it's linked to Catholic churches, Protestant churches, whatever churches, there was levels of abuse, real brutal cruelty. When they show it on movie, I think when they show it, and the actors play with such convictions, and you think to yourself, wow, like these is happening in real life. And then when you look up certain stuff and you find that it's actually happened in real life, is when it comes more real, because the people are more real, especially if you see a documentary on on the people themselves talking. And especially when they put it in movie, in a program, that's even more interesting, because then they bring it more to life. But because people are not looking into the background of where they are living more to understand what is going on, especially over here. Like I said, England is built on blood. Well, I can't remember what I said. It's built on blood and something else. England, the history alone is full of blood alone. All types of cruelty went on here, even in the other centuries before. Even now, when you walk around certain parts of London, you'll see asylum that is turned into apartments. Now they're knocking down the flats now and turning them into posh houses, because these are all history. They're all history stamps. So, like, even on the gates, when you're walking around certain flats, the beds are from the asylums that they used to keep people in. So, I know, like, as I see that most of these places are in certain parts of London, which I do know about. I've been to some of them places, so it makes it more real, because like now, a girl can get pregnant now; she can have a baby. There's a lot at one point. There's a lot of teenage pregnancies at one point. Now, if that was in that time when they had them homes, then girls would have been doing some type of slave labor, some type of labor for not a lot of money, for like 10 shillings or something like that, apparently. Because when you talk to certain people, especially in this country, they will tell you about it, as Christine has highlighted. They will tell you about it. They will tell you about the workhouses. If you ask any person about certain parts of London, they can tell you all different parts, what went on in certain parts of London, particularly Ireland as well. Right, there was so much levels of cruelty, brutality, and everything else with it. Like I said, I was on little YouTube here, and I see one movie with boys in an institution, and that's what sparked me to look up the institution a little more, because probably these things still happen now. And the government is normally, well, not going to say, well, when you mention the government now, you do, like, you turn it another way. But in that time, the state had something to do with the girls, because they made it a rule that if you are underage and unwedded and you are pregnant, you are not a person. You are lower than low, and it was like a crime. So even if like you are going through certain things in your house, they will treat you like a criminal. That's why they sent them to these places that even when they talk about it, they call themselves, when they say they was incarcerated. It's like, wow, like that's deep to say that when you were so young, you was like 16, 17, you're carrying, you go there to have this baby, thinking that you're going to be taken care of by these nuns, and these nuns happen to be sadistic women for whatever reason. And but anyways, I'm gonna make a part 2, because I think I have to do something more on the ledgers, because I think I'm gonna look more into the ledgers. I have to separate it in different parts, because that way, like, that way you can see all the different elements. Because when you try to put it all in one video, there's so many parts to it. I can be here over 2 hours showing articles and stuff. So with that said, I will do a part 2. I still got to do Lucy Let's Be, got to continue that one too. And I'm going to try not to go back to Silly Jazzy Life, because there's other things to talk about. There's things going on in the world. Okay, so but yeah, thank you for coming. For those who came through, Christine, Alexander, and Medusa. But but this is important. See this here? This here, a lot of elderly went through this. They went through a lot of stuff. People talk about the Blitz, World War IV, and all this stuff. There was all this going on, and while these things was going on, okay, workhouses, even a matter of fact, during the war, some children were sent away to places as well, where they had to work on farms and extras and this and that and the other. Possibly this country can go back to it. You never know. You know what I'm saying? The way how it's looking right now, between the rich and poor. This was the situation at that time. Okay, so I'm not going to go into a whole history lesson because it's not really a history lesson. I just want to talk about it because it's an interesting subject to see that something so horrible is stapled in history, and then it only comes to highlight when certain things are highlighted. The BBC highlighted it in a program. I saw the thing in the recommendation. I didn't clock what the hell was going on, so I didn't even look at it. I just saw that they said that they put the women who had biracial children in these homes, but it seems like there's a bit more to the story. And there probably was women like that in these homes too, right? So with that said, I'm going to stop it right there. Please leave a comment underneath. My reading's not the best, as you can see, but there's some parts I just want to bring out certain parts or whatever. I still got to do the smart city thing, I think. There's some bits I'm supposed to cover. But when my daughter's a little bit more settled, I can do a little more. And so, with that said, I'll see you in the next live. Please come along. Please come to all the different lives. Please watch all the videos to the end because there is always a little something in there. Because not all of us come from the same country. And some of these stories are sometimes linked to the States, sometimes linked to some certain places. We won't know till when these conversations comes up. So with that said, I will see you in the next live. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.